Hello again, and thank you for staying with us. Well, I don't know if you've been watching the news lately, but there is a very interesting move in the last hours. The SLS, the huge lunar launcher from NASA, has been moved to its launch pad for new testing, for wet dress rehearsal, before going to the moon. Okay, going to the moon, well, it's not what we'll be talking about this morning, because, well, it's not our market here. The Artemis program is about going to the moon and staying there, settling for a long time. Which means, well, if we are going to stay there, that there will be needs to be addressed. Needs for communications, for housing, for navigation, for safe and reliable electronics. And, well, luckily, we have plenty of interesting providers around me. Yes, from my right, we have Franck Poirier, who is CEO of Sodern and who represents the equipments at the CoSpace, the French organism for coordination between the industry and the government. We have Elodie Viau, sorry, it's been tough today. Elodie Viau, who is the ESA Director for Telecommunications, and telecommunications will be key because, well, distance. Then we have Massimo Comparini, who is Deputy CEO of Thales Alenia Space, and we know that in Thales Alenia Space in Italy, in Torino, you're doing very interesting things for the exploration, but not only. And we have Johan Ballot, who is Business Development Manager of EREMS, who is representing the supply chain, because all of this won't work without the good electronics. So, well, actually, I will ask you to repeat most of what I've said, but in more details regarding your role. And, well, ladies first, Elodie. Please present us your projects on this.
Is it working? Yes. So nice being with you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be with all of you. So I'm Elodie Viau. I'm the Director for Telecommunication and Integrated Application at the European Space Agency. So we have heard just before that we are going to have some key program proposal at the upcoming ministerial from our Director General Joseph Aschbarer. Some of them are concerning Earth, like secure connectivity, where we, yes, in my directorate, we try to promote deploying connectivity on the Earth for bringing new solution for more security, more safety, solutions that are going towards 5G and 6G, solutions that are looking at using quantum communication. So that's where, when we look at the Earth. And now when we look at the Moon, we are also foreseeing that as it is very important to have access to space, it's becoming strategic importance for Europe to have access to the Moon. And that's why we are looking towards how many missions are going to be on the Moon soon. And just to give a few figures to put things in perspective, we are looking that there is a prediction to have 250 institutional and private missions that are planned over the next years, which represent more than 105 billion in investments towards the Moon. And that is why it's of strategic importance to be present as in Europe. And so we are proposing with Moonlight at the next ministerial, at the European Space Agency, a program where we want to develop a service of telecommunication and navigation around the Moon. So we are looking at, today we have all those missions that go towards the Moon that are carrying their own telecommunications, their own navigation system, which is far away from being cost efficient and which is also not helping each of those missions to focus on their primary mission, which is having the telecom and the navigation, which is a secondary mission. So that's why this first step of having a new system of telecommunication and navigation services around the moon will address those missions, making them more cost efficient, more able to go. In addition to that, we see that the lunar economy is developing. This is also for human going back to the moon that is planned in the coming decades. And when we want to go there, now there is plan of going there sustainably. And in order to be sustainable, this will be first very important that they can communicate back towards Earth, and that they can navigate on the surface of the moon, that they can land not only in place where it is fully secure, but they can land anywhere on the moon thanks to the navigation services. So that's also a secondary step of facilitating the access of the moon and the exploration of the moon. First, we see that people are looking for the source of the pole sud, so south pole of the moon. Sorry, my French is coming back. So the south pole of the moon, but then after that you want to also explore the rear face of the moon. And so those services of navigation and telecommunication will allow that. So we are taking a different approach in Moonlight. We are taking an approach where we have commercial entities that are setting up. So as we did when we started the telecommunication around Earth with the creation of Eutelsat, here we are boosting the competition and the competitivity of our European enterprise in order to provide those services. We are placing the European Space Agency as an anchor customer, and we are deploying also partnership. It's very important because it's a strategic importance to be autonomous, to have access to the moon, but it's as strategic to then do partnership with other entities like NASA. So we are collaborating with us that the system that is deployed by the European industry is effectively interoperable for the international potential customers. So that's a bit it.
Thank you, Elodie. Massimo, well, just to remind everyone, you've built more pressurized modules for the ISS than anyone else in the world. Now you're almost single-handedly building the gateway station. I'm just literally exaggerating, but not that much. So you will be providing live support in many kind of meaning for the astronauts around the moon. Is Thales Alenia Space the first really commercial moon company?
First of all, Stefan, let me start from what you say. We are back to the moon not to spend a long weekend, as I'm used to say in a number of interviews, but to stay on the planet, to work on the planet. And if we are going to target to work on the planet for a certain period of time, we need also to give an environment where, when the astronauts stop to work, they can relax. I mean, it's a kind of ecosystem that in the coming years or decades we need to target. And of course, as you said, there is a basic requirement, which is how to make the man surviving that harsh environment. And so this is the legacy with what we have done at the level of the space industry, and of course also, as you were so kind to remind, the role of TAS in the pressurized model. So environment that allow the man to work, to rest, to stay in that microgravity environment. And it's a long journey because last year we had the 20th anniversary of the continuous work on the space station, and you know that the space station with all the elements has been a journey long 20 years. Of course, let's say, looking to the moon, we are different environment. So there is a technology evolution of those pressurized models. Not just a container, but it's a complex system of subsystems in terms of electronics, in terms of thermomechanical systems, in terms of protection of radiation, and in perspective, in terms of IT, digital technologies that will help to have maintenance and to help the work of the man in that environment. Now, I think we have two basic elements in front of us. The level of challenges, scientific challenges as well as technical challenges that we have to go to the moon, to work and stay on the moon, is such that it's not all easy. I mean, of course, we have a strong technology base, a strong system base in Europe and of course worldwide, but it's not over. It will be not just a legal game. So we still have, I think, science and a scientific and technology element to mature in the coming years. And then, as Elodie said, of course, all of this will enable a true economy. And, you know, in my mind, by definition, not only by distance, we see in the last 2 or 3 years quite a strong acceleration of the low Earth orbit economy with the first ever commercial space station. I'm sure that as soon as we will bring to the planet the first surface element, we will have at the same time a first signal of a lunar economy. And when we will have that, of course, we need the infrastructure that Elodie was mentioned before. We need to communicate in a continuous, reliable, and resilient way. We need to know where we are. Also, if, of course, let's say, the first element of mobility will be not like on the Earth, but we need to know where we are. We need to know where our, maybe, pressurized rover will go, starting from the South Pole. So I think that it's a kind of paramount of challenges that the space industry in Europe, not only Europe, will take. And of course, let's say, I'm quite proud of what TAS has done in the last 2 decades. I'm sure that we will inject our knowledge, our long-standing knowledge, competences, and technologies in the coming era. And I'm sure that we will play a role also in the commercial exploitation of all of that.
Thank you. So we've been talking about navigation, and well, since there is still not any Galileo, well, there will be, but not yet, Galileo or GPS, and no differential Galileo or GPS for, let's say, proximity operations, we will need sensors, and I think it's your business, Frank.
Yes, thank you. Of course, it's a business, core business of Southern. Our objective is being the world leaders for guidance, navigation, rendezvous, and landing cameras. Rendezvous between satellites, cargo, and so on will become extremely common to sustain the logistics needed for continuous human presence on the moon or in space. This will require both hardware, like cameras, and also very complex software. Southern has a very strong heritage, both with camera and softwares, that will allow us to be a world pioneer. Cameras, star trackers, of course. We equip 1/3 of the world's satellites. A star tracker is an intelligent and resilient camera. Second, navigation cameras for harsh environment. As an example, we performed the camera for navigation for JUICE mission of ESA. Very accurate camera, very hard Jupiter environment because of radiation. Another example is the camera, which is between camera and star tracker for the US mission to Jupiter, Europa Clipper. We had a direct contract with GPL. And third, monitoring cameras, like the daughter of the famous new space star tracker Auriga. The daughter is Oricam. Very competitive and compact camera. Second point, it's about software. Just a couple of years ago, 10 years around, the ATV of ESA, Automated Transfer Vehicle, we were open supply cargo for the space station First, to be able to perform an automated docking, which is very important for...
Fully automated?
Okay, fully automatic, yes. This is in part because of the odometer and software developed by Southern. The precision were 1 centimeter for the docking.
Yes, I guess we got to the maximum sensibility for...
Yeah.
It will be difficult to detect something smoother.
Okay, second point, it was collaborative docking because some reflectors were put on the space station to help this rendezvous. Now we are working on new product, Aramis. It's a software to develop a non-comparative rendezvous. This software is made with CEA, Commissariat à l'Énergie Atomique in France. We discussed with CEA and we developed this software since 2018. Sorry. The third kind of software is intrusion sensors and software for the French military satellites like Syracuse 4, which have developed for the French armed force. As for Florence Parly, who was Minister of Defense, said officially, we performed the intrusion sensors. Yes, we have all the technologies required. We have a head start, and we are willing to work with all the satellite manufacturers, from large groups to startups, in provide them with this technology, optical technology and software.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Yohann Balot from EREMS. Many people don't know you, but they should, because, well, since 1979, you've been the little helpers of many, many interesting missions, providing the electronics that made those missions possible.
Yes. So thank you. Thank you to I'm very happy to be here this morning. Thanks for the invitation. My name is Yohann Balot. I'm the Business Development Manager of EREMS. I will take some few words to present my company. So EREMS is a French SME composed of 170 employees with a turnover of last year of 16 million euros. We were created in 1979. So it means that we have more than 43 years of heritage and experience in the development of specific electronic equipment for the space market. Today we are trying to manage the complete chain value in our premises from the definition of the specification until the delivery of the flight equipment. We have increased year after year a lot of skills and fields of expertise to provide electronic solutions for space, like power supplies electronics, data handling units, onboard computers, mass memory, front-end electronics, command and control units, and also radiation and charging monitors. So it's very various. And we are trying to be present in the different space sectors, like the Earth observation, which is a very important market for us, but also we are present in telecommunication sectors, and the science and exploration. Human spaceflight activities, we have a very strong heritage by providing solutions for human spaceflight missions. We are also present on the nanosatellite sectors, and we are trying to be present in launchers. Regarding the Moon program, as everybody has already said this morning, that the final objective is to be able to send human on the moon and for a long time. So it means that we need to resolve several technological and logistic programs to be able to stay on the moon for a very long time. Consequently, we need to develop a lot of logistics and infrastructure solutions, like we will have to place satellites on orbit on the moon, like already as already said, but we will have to develop rover to explore the moon. We will have to build a moon station. We will have to build a gateway. We will have to have landers. And also a lot of medical monitoring systems, energy management system, because we will have to manage energy on the moon. All resources management system and telecommunication system is very various. So in fact, if we want to stay a long time on the moon, we have to develop everything. And all of those infrastructures needs will imply to develop a lot of electronic equipment with a very high reliability and availability, which is finally fully in the scope of our business plan at RMS. That's why this kind of program is very important for us. For example, we have been involved in various human space flight missions by providing scientific or medical instruments in the past and actually still today. For example, we have developed instruments which were embedded in the Mir stations. We have, for example, participated to the mission of Claudie Agnoret in the past. We were also present on the Discovery Navette. We provide some equipment. Also, for the Chinese space station Tiangong 2, we have developed some medical instruments. And in the ISS, we have a lot of also scientific instruments, and we have participated to the both missions of Thomas Pesquet the last years. And in another side, we have been also very involved in prestigious science and exploration missions by providing specific electronic equipment. We are present for the InSight missions, BP Colombo, Solar Orbiter, ExoMars, Mass Moon Experience, and also Marsipan Return, which is an important program today. So all of those programs have made our heritage today and will be very useful to provide solutions for the moon, to go to the moon. So, and for example, as Frank said, if we have a lander or if we have a rover, we need cameras. And then, of course, we need an onboard computers to control the cameras and to realize the data processing of the video and so on. But also we need telecommunication equipment, power equipment to realize the telecommunication functions. So it's very important. Those kind of programs will imply a lot of activities for the complete supply chain in space. And in conclusion, Europe and France is a leader for the space market. So it's very important to be involved in a program like Artemis. It's very, very important. It's strategic, and economically, it's very, very important. So the Artemis program will offer at all the space supply chain in Europe, also in US, but regarding Europe and regarding the France, it could provide a lot of business opportunities because we need to develop everything to go to the moon. And regarding the France, which is an historic leader for the space market in Europe, we have to keep this status. We have to keep this place, and it means that the France has to keep to be involved in this kind of program.
Thank you. Well, I did not expect to say that, but actually you've all been to deep space, more or less, with your companies. How is it tougher, or is it harder than working in LEO? What is the real challenge technically? Let's start with you because, well...
Okay. It's different, but it's not. We cannot say it's harder because the LEO orbit or the MEO orbit could be very aggressive. The environment around the Earth is very aggressive. That's why we need radiation monitors, and that's why we need hardened solutions. But the difference, it's, by the way, it's easier to put something in orbit around the Earth than to go to deep space. It's the orbit rising is very more difficult. So finally, the budget needed, the amount of budget needed to make those kind of programs are bigger and bigger, and which implies to have very reliable and available equipment.
Okay.
I think I already touched, I mean, from a thermal mechanical infrastructure, so you need to deal with the harsh environment. You need to have more autonomous systems, because we will have a difference with respect to what happened in the last 20 years in the space station. I mean, we will not have always the man on board, so that it's important that we build a system that is capable to give all the information on how the things are going there and what you can do. And then I really think that we need to start to think about how maintenance can be done, not always having all the stuff coming from Earth. I mean, you remember our role. We have a cargo product that is today at Cygnus is a number 19 and 20. We're going to number 26, which is of course a kind of a space cargo back and forward the station. But when you will have the first infrastructure deployed to the moon, I think that we should start to think about, okay, how I can work locally, and how we'll open a kind of made in space in order to have really fast and effective maintenance of what we're building there. So it's true that we have a large technology base that will make this step something affordable and also quite in a short time, but on the other hand, is a reality that we need a number of evolution in terms of technology, in terms of sensing, in terms of radiation sensing, which is extremely important to achieve this challenging goal, to stay and to work there, because this is what we say.
So, okay, so I will just echo a bit what has been said. I think there is two type of challenges. The first one is technical. So when you want to go to the moon, you have like where you land. That is can be risky where you land as a lander. Also, after that, the view of sight of the Earth. That is not always continuous at this stage. So this is some technical challenge. You have mentioned other for the radiation, the environment, especially when you want to go there to stay. So that's the first set. But there is also a business challenge, because right now the lunar economy and the business model to have technology deployed and developed on the moon are not present yet. And that's why lowering down the cost of those missions by having an infrastructure of telecommunication and navigation could facilitate additional initiative, lowering down the cost and facilitating the business model, having the agency as an anchor customer, but also facilitating a partnership with other private investment. We have seen earlier this morning that there is more and more private investment within space and within the lunar space economy as well. So I think there is those two phases to be considered that are very challenging at this stage when we go towards the moon. A technical challenge, of course, but also the business model that is basically on Earth, there is already an established ecosystem which is not existing yet on the moon. We can facilitate that by having those projects and by having public and private going hand to hand to deploy this ecosystem. And as there is a lot of potential investment, I think that's why it is attractive also, because as mentioned by our colleagues, it's not only here on the moon that things are developed, but it will be used as well to boost the on-Earth economy. So there is a duality.
We'll come back to that. I must confess, I thought that the biggest problem would be that it's terribly harsh environment with a lot of radiations, cosmic rays, and please, Frank, say something that, that helps me.
It's exactly what Johan said a couple of minutes ago. For me, the main difference between the LEO orbit and the Moon, the difference is very, very huge. It's a revolution. To this day, with the exception of the ISS, of course, all our endeavors in space have been temporary. Satellite works for a limited amount of time. The Apollo missions were very short, of course. This time, if we return to the Moon, humanity will have a continuous presence in space. We will go in space to stay there. And this will have a profound technological impact. Technologies will have to work longer in space. And after what Massimo said, we must repair, we must have maintenance. At mission level, it's the same at equipment level. And to do that, we will have to be simple, very simple with the equipment, simpler and more standard to allow for maintenance and reparation in space. After, as I said before, guidance, rendezvous, and landing technologies will be extremely necessary, of course. And of course, what you said, because of the certain harsher conditions, we will have huge consequences, of course.
Well, so long duration, sustainability, autonomous systems. Is this some kind of paradigm shift? And is this limited to the Moon? Well, say, the Moon is a wonderful test bed for going further, because, well, it's an ugly place to be, and it's close. So if there is any problem, we can react, which will not be the case around Mars or elsewhere. But all these technologies, robustness, is it also something that we could apply back in low Earth orbit? Anyone?
I think you touch absolutely a very relevant point in the sense that the technology evolution that we need to have a sustainable infrastructure on the Moon is extremely important also for what is the plan, what is the evolution on the low Earth orbit. So I really, in those weeks, we are really working on how have the best synergies between what we are going to think about the first lunar surface model and our role in building the commercial space stations, which is one element of the space economy that raised up quite fast in the last year and a half. So I think this is an extremely important point. This is an interesting point because, of course, the other very important flagship let's say, programs is the Earth observation because it's related to sustainability of our planet. I really think that what we are going to study, what we are going to do to support the exploration as we shape will be extremely important also to have feedback on the sustainability all in all. I mean, if we are going to learn how to grow plants with a very limited amount of resources or water resources, which is something that has been studied, scientific assessed in the last 10 years on the space station, that would be extremely important also for the Earth. And this is something which is, I think, is extremely important also, let's say, to give the feeling that the investment, what the space agencies, what the member states are doing in the space exploration is not to go for a nice missions far from the Earth, but it's really something that we will be back or what we need to have a sustainable planet. And this is true for all the technologies that we're talking today.
Yeah, I will fully echo and complement that indeed this time is to go back sustainably on the moon, to develop activities, to eventually use the moon as a hub to go further, to go more deep space if we are on the way to Mars, if we are on the way to explore our planet from the rear face of the moon where you have little light. So that will be the goal there, right? But after that, what is very important is to do it in a sustainable way and not a wild Far West approach where you go there and you establish and the moon gets as polluted as the Earth. So we want to, from the beginning, have a sustainable and mindful approach. And that's what we are encouraging, even in the development of low Earth orbit system, the new approach of having a commercial space station or having constellation. We are considering those constellations that do provide a lot of benefits on Earth, and that those constellations that will provide a lot of benefits on the moon surface need to be developed, both of them in a sustainable approach, being mindful of the importance of space debris, being able to be mindful of how we handle it. So there is a lot to invent in all those fields, especially when we go one step further, when we deploy those sustainable systems on the surface of the moon. We need to have an approach where we can communicate and take also our lesson of what was deployed on the Earth. This time we have a new deployment, so in different conditions, of course, but with the principle that from the beginning we are developing things respectfully.
Okay.
Yes, for me, my point of view is very simple. The key point to go on the moon is in-orbit services. It is necessary for me, like as a first step, or human presence on or around the moon will require a lot of logistics. We will have to deliver supplies, fuel, and so on. The principle is exactly the same as in-orbit servicing. Thus, it's a lot easier to start with in-orbit servicing first around the Earth, because it's closer to the Earth, of course, because the quantities that need to be transported are smaller. And then in a second time, we will move on to moon logistics. For me, it's key point as a first step. The experience acquired from in-orbit servicing between mechanical objects and so on will help us to design safe procedures for moon logistics with humans. And at the end, the technology will be very similar too, between in-orbit and moon technology. Refueling a satellite in low Earth orbit or refueling a space station around the moon requires the same type of know-how and equipment, of course.
Yes, well, I was thinking that actually one of the next missions you will be doing for that is not around the Earth, is not around the moon, it's around Mars. So
yes, it's like Elodie said, first at moon, after Mars, of course.
Yes, but Mars is coming quite rapidly with the Mars Sample Return mission, where you provide the sensors to grab the sample capsule.
Yes,
so actually everything is progressing in parallel.
Yeah, you know, Southern is developing the famous camera for Mars Sample Return in order to catch the small football, which includes the échantillon.
The samples.
Yes, and it's very, very hard to perform that, but it's an additional step between this MSR camera, narrow angle camera for MSR, and what we performed for JUICE or Europa Clipper mission. It's very, very, very hard. But we are confident, of course.
Well, if I summarize, we have the technologies, we have the know-how, we have the ideas, we have the competencies. But, well, everybody is talking about lunar economy. Is this really a market? Well, I know I'm like St. Thomas. How the money is flowing from where to where? Well, where where it goes, I know, but for instance, ARMS, you're providing subsystems, power converters, and electronics. And would this mean that you will have a larger market with the moon economy?
We would have a larger market because, as I said previously, to go to the moon for a long time, we need to develop everything. So, and which will be sustainable, as we said. So, it means that we will have more and more opportunities. And just to go back to the previous topics regarding the next step to go to Mars, yes, it is. First step, we will go to the moon, which could be considered as the best laboratory to increase our maturity, how to stay for a long time, not in the Earth, and then we will be we will try to be able to go to Mars. But the problem to go to Mars regarding with humans is that we need 6 months to go there, 6 months to go back, so it's 1 year, and we have to do the mission on Mars, which is more and more longer than the duration of the mission actual for the astronauts in the ISS. So we have to increase technologies. We have to go step by step. And
the steps will be longer because, it requires time to prove everything. But
and then, because the step will be longer, because we have to try some technologies and so on. But with the objective to not to make I would say pollution on the moon. So it is a very important point. We will have more and more opportunities because we have to do everything. So in fact, the market could be very important.
You're building a private space station, Massimo. So I mean, there is money. Will there be money coming from anyone else than the governments on the moon?
Let me say that, of course, if we are going to build infrastructure on the moon, there is a market because someone must build that. Maybe it's slightly different if we ask ourselves where the money comes from. What will be the model? Will be a model which is remain institutional based with the space agency, or we will see a flow of private money? And I think that's my personal opinion that before to go to a lunar economy, we will have a LEO economy. As you touch in the LEO in the low Earth orbit, we see companies raising private funds, private money. They say, okay, let me build a station, let me start to build a couple of models because I know that someone will pay to stay there, maybe for a couple of months to research on new biotech or new materials, new fibers, or why not made in space. So I think that this is starting. Again, if we are conscious about the challenges that we have in front of us to go back to the moon and to walk there, I think that we need a kind of maturation phase before to say to Kurt that we will have a lunar economy and everything will be driven by private money. I think we are not there for moon. First of all, because we need to see how it's going to work on the low Earth orbit, how, let's say, to work and to research and to made in space in the microgravity is working from economic standpoint. So I think that it's important for all what we say, for all what we do, that we have this perspective, but it's also important that, let me say, I don't want to say we don't dream too much, but we don't overestimate too much the fact that for the coming years, if we're talking about the moon, we need to be really backed by a large amount of funding that will come, in my mind, still from institutions.
So I'm turning to institution. Will you provide your service free of charge like Galileo, or will this be a lot more
For Moonlight, what we are positioning is to do a public-private partnership to develop this infrastructure. And after that, this infrastructure with institution and we will be an anchor customer, but the idea is to also to facilitate and let the industry commercializing their services, being telecom or navigation. So I think there is, as mentioned, there is a step approach that needs to be revealed. Right now, there is the first step that we see, and it's a study that was done in April 2022, that there is 250 institutional and private mission towards the moon. So I think those are the first set of, I would say, a customer for this system to use a common system of telecommunication and navigation that will lower down the cost. And then after that, this is a brand new domain, so it's always very hard to predict. But when you will have the human presence going back to the moon, it's a new set of services. It's quite different between rovers and the infrastructure that will be established. So there is a two-step approach to be perceived. Of course, we don't naively believe that there is only private investment that will kick them up. So that's why we are proposing a program to our member states in order for them to see the interest and support the public to be able to support the private initiative. And as we have heard, those initiatives that are towards the moon have also a huge benefit on the Earth in terms of development of technical capability, development of, economical condition on Earth to develop all those technology, and also inspirational. I think we have not only the technical capability in Europe, we have the motivation and the enthusiasm of doing it, and this will give us a key strategical position. Today, my team, the Moonlight team of ESA, is currently at NASA for a full week in discussion of interoperability, standardization. So this is also a way to make Europe having a say at the international table.
Actually, yeah, because you're going into my next questions. Because, well,
Sorry.
I guess the Europeans are not the only ones on this market. So is it strategic to be there? Are we supposed to be a strategic junior partner or a strategic player? I just want to know.
So I will start and I let the floor to the other to answer as well. It is very important to know that, as Joseph Aschbacher has mentioned, the new war situation that has created also reinforcement of other partnerships. And this is clear that with NASA, for example, we are becoming a key strategic partner. But as a key strategic partner, you need to bring something in. And this is true that telecommunication and navigation, for example, in the Gateway, in Artemis program, Europe is at the forefront thanks to its capabilities, thanks to its industry, thanks to this European industry. So that's very key to keep that. After, there is also new partners. There is newcomers. I was in a conference in Dubai, a conference in Colorado. You see in the international scenes that the new actors, the new players, like the Emirates, like India, that is also getting in, are considering partnering, and also Japan is considering partnering with us. So we have a strong role to play, especially if we want to develop this technology and this endeavor in a way that is sustainable. So if we want to give our footprint also in the way we want to do it, that's very important as well. So there is an ecosystem that is quite vibrant. The moon is seen as a strategic opportunity to go after that towards Mars. So I think we need to be part of it. We have all the capability. Now we need the political support to materialize our industry ambition.
Anyone else?
I think that the reality is that Europe is a strategic partner, and of course, it's not just by definition, because if we invest, if we develop our technologies, if the European space industry is able to play a leading role, this is, of course, all in all, shape what is the impact that Europe can have on those challenging missions. I think, as we said, let's say today, if we look to the gateway, if you look to the moon, is a combination of the role of ESA and the member state, the role of the people, of the country directly participating to the Artemis project. Of course, you mentioned before our role in Turin. I have well in mind that we have a strong and traditional legacy in bilateral between NASA and the Italian Space Agency, and I think all in all makes the position of Europe quite strong. And of course, what will going to happen and what through the work of DG and all the directors, the member state will support at the ministerial conference 22 and 25 is essential to keep and to further develop this role. I think that the European industry has shown that we have the right technologies, the right capabilities to lead every mission that we want.
You want to say something? No? Well,
Yeah.
then, yes.
Yes, the key point for me with the cooperation between the US, Europe, the other country, is for me to be standard for the equipment. The equipment, I take an example. You know perhaps now the Auriga New Space Star Tracker. We created a standard. We have only one version for all the customers, startup, huge group and so on, only one. And it's key to be efficient, economically efficient and technically efficient. It's key point. If we have a lot of version for the moon exploration, Mars exploration, forget it, we will not be efficient. It's in addition of interoperability you mentioned, right, to be standard. And an equipment supplier is ready to sell to everybody around the world. It's my job. And that's all.
I see that. We have room for, let's say, one short question with one short answer. Anyone? Come on, it's lunar economy, it's important. I'm sorry, I'm short-sighted. It's difficult to see people raising hands with the light in my face.
Hello. So the idea of sustainability for lunar missions is very interesting. And I was wondering if there were already discussions or ideas on policy or governance so that public and private sectors can work together towards this goal and not just discuss it and have just a vague idea about that.
Yes, so the answer is yes. So, for example, in the initiative of this of the development of sustainable solution around the moon, we are in discussion, and I was in a panel in Toulouse, for example, with an enterprise, a startup, a bit more than a startup in space, but not startup on Earth. That is developing a concept of, I find the terminology funny and I'm taking it from him, a space fridge that he can position on the moon, and how this space fridge will need to have a link back down to Earth in terms of data management handling, right? So, and the way that he's describing that is also using this technology on Earth to develop a sustainable food solution. So that's it's one example, but like in this endeavor of developing a solution on the surface of the moon, so things, some of those things are more forward thinking. or on the moon surface, but that are already taking shape or helping as a spin-off to shape things on Earth, which is also a good model because it's facilitating to project yourself of what could happen on the moon. Yes, so that's one example of, it's not just a discussion that we are having here. Behind all our words, there is a very concrete action and development, like was mentioned by Southern, of their standardization of Star Tracker with Orion, like in Thales, that there is already initiatives that are initiated with RM for the electronics. So there is concrete discussion and action to how to develop constellation sustainably, in orbit sustainably, and then on the moon in a sustainable way.
Talking about standards, will the lunar economy be metric?
We will talk on the next panel in 1 year.
Okay. Well, time's up. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for my speakers. And see you next year.